Welcome to Satsang.
Hello, Vishrant. Can you please speak about the topic Zorba the Buddha and enlightenment in the marketplace?
The Zorba the Buddha came from Osho Rajneesh to be in the marketplace as Zorba, celebrating life, full of life, enjoying life, but not of it. The Buddha, enlightened in the marketplace, knowing self as truth while still being in the marketplace, while still celebrating this amazing adventure of life that we have the opportunity to have. We've been given this amazing spacesuit that consciousness gets to experience the world through. Unfortunately, most people think they are the spacesuit and the mind or the onboard computer of the spacesuit. But really, we are just pure consciousness, pure awareness. And the spacesuit is a vehicle that consciousness can be in this world with. The spacesuit can be used to celebrate life, or it can be used to sit still in a monastery or an ashram. But my beloved teacher, Osho Rajneesh, said, let's celebrate life. Let's have fun. Let's squeeze the juice out of life. And I agree totally. Find yourself as truth and stay in the marketplace. And this is why I teach lay people rather than monks, nuns, and sadhus, because they've chosen to, in a lot of ways, play life be out of it in a monastery or an ashram or a cave somewhere. And boy, man, you've got this amazing spacesuit. Why would you want to deny it? Why not get out there and have adventures? Why not be Zorba, the Buddha? The truth is, we can't be anything because we're everything, but we can play this game of Zorba the Buddha. Everything the body does, everything the mind does is an act in a way anyway. It's only when you take it as though it's you that you're lost. It's just a play. So play totally. Give it your totality. Zorba, the Buddha. Any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to this teaching today?
How do you choose to celebrate life? Do you have a favorite way?
Yeah, talking to people, holding satsang, favorite play of all time. You know, people think the guru is a somebody. The guru is also an act. Everything is an act. There's nothing that's real. Consciousness, pure awareness, what we truly are. Find that's real. But everything else is just a game. And here we are, we can play this game with misery, or we can play this game with joy. The moment we accept life as it is, life becomes cool as. As long as we're resisting life, we suffer. Our suffering, caused by our resistance, changes nothing. But people don't get that. They don't get that bit. So they keep resisting. Find self as pure awareness, as truth, as consciousness. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the only reason to be here. Wake up. Wake up to your true nature and live this life. Adventure this life to the max.
The next question has been written by Olivia. Is one always resisting life until they are enlightened?
No, no, Olivia. I got I got onto this subject, gosh, really early in the piece. I realised that the greatest resistance we can offer life in a lot of ways is to turn ourselves into a victim of circumstance or people or even ourselves. And when we turn ourselves into a victim and start blaming someone else or some situation or ourselves for something, we are in massive resistance to life. And the more of a victim we are, the more resistance we're offering, the more we suffer. And I was fortunate enough to be introduced to this understanding when I was a teenager. And so in this life, I've experienced the same pain as other people do. But as far as suffering's concerned, I'm not into resisting life. I'm look, in the early years, I would have, because I didn't understand. But once I realized that it was a choice to become a victim, that we actually have to raise our hand and volunteer to be a victim, that we don't ever need to be one. We can just see this is what life is like rather than good, bad. It's just what is. Man, so much suffering disappears. So I wouldn't say that I've suffered that much as a result of resistance to life while I was ego based. But that also sets you up for higher consciousness because when we're resisting life, when we're fighting against what is because we disagree, we're taking ourselves into lower consciousness. Higher consciousness, way better. So the moment we enter some story where we're a victim and we're starting to resist life, we're taking ourselves down deeper and deeper into suffering, but we're also taking ourselves into lower consciousness. We don't need to do that. Stop resisting. Life is just the way it is. Bad stuff's going to happen. People are going to let you down. People are going to lie to you. They'll probably steal from you. That's the way it is. You don't have to be a victim of it. You don't have to resist life. People get so disturbed about all sorts of different things happening on the planet. There's no need to resist. If you want to actually make a change, make a change. But you don't need to do that from internal resistance. We can do all of that from openness. If you don't like the deforestation of open country that's got beautiful trees in it, you can protest. You can get petitions happening. You can stand in front of tractors if you want, but you can do it from a place of non resistance. You can do it from a place of openness. We do not have to create resistance in ourselves to move to change. In other words, we do not have to create suffering in ourselves to move to change. And so before enlightenment, heck yeah, you don't have to suffer. Stop resisting. Your choice. You're creating your reality through your thoughts and your actions.
In relation to celebrating life, how did you stop getting involved in ways of celebrating life that aren't so conducive towards higher consciousness?
Like what? Like what?
I should have asked, do you think there are ways of celebrating life that aren't so conducive toward higher consciousness?
Really? Well, look, anything that clouds you, anything that takes you into dream is in the way of high consciousness because dream is lower consciousness. And so, quite often, when we look at that, we'll have to say, well, most drug taking and alcohol drinking takes us into lower consciousness because it takes us into dream. And we don't have to get into drugs. We don't have to get into alcohol. Basically, they're just escapes from what is. And when we really examine how we're living our life, are we being 100% present here, or are we avoiding something inside ourselves? Taking drugs, taking alcohol, gaming, gambling, overeating, these things all are escape methodologies to take us away from what we're feeling, to take us away from the moment of what's really here, the same as hope does. We don't need to do that. We can be present here. We can be okay with what is if we want. If we want, it's a choice. So we talk about enjoying life and things that might be in the way. Sure, there's things that are in the way of higher consciousness, but why would you want to get into them unless you're an escape artist? Reality is brilliant. Just got to get used to it. And along with that comes a willingness to feel pain, because quite often we're using all these escape methodologies to avoid pain in ourselves. Look, to be human is to feel pain. It's the way it is. This is the existence that we have, because we're going to lose everything. Everyone that's born is going to lose everything they get that they collect through their life, whether it's material objects, their own health, their friends, their family. Everything is going to go. Nothing is stable. And so we do suffer the pain, particularly the pain of loss. So what? That's life. That's part of the deal. That's part of the totality. As long as we're not avoiding that, we can be present. As long as we're not avoiding that, we probably don't need alcohol, drugs, gaming, and all the other methodologies to get away. Have a look and see.
The next question. In all religions involved in enlightenment, there are monks and sadhus retreating from the world to find themselves. Do you think it could be a necessary step to get distance from the world before coming back to it to share the light?
Look, I'm not against people doing that. They can do whatever they like, whatever works for them. It's just that I don't deal with people who are monks or nuns or sadhus. I deal with people who live in the marketplace, who have jobs, who have families, who have commitments and responsibilities. And so I'm here to show those people that it's possible to wake up in the marketplace and to be in the marketplace. Zorba the Buddha. I'm not against monasteries. I'm not against ashrams or caves for that matter. It's just that that's not the way I came. That's not the path I took. And it's not the only way. They might tell you it's the only way, but it's not. We can use everything in the marketplace to practice what we need to know, to learn, to get free. And when we talk about needing to learn, it's really about taking things away. It's about taking our resistance to life away. And so we move through life with acceptance because we've practiced acceptance. And that allows a mind that is equanimous. An equanimous mind supports enlightenment. And so, whatever relationship we're in, whether it's with a partner or whether it's with our work comrades or our bosses or whatever, they all give us opportunity to practice surrender and acceptance. Or they offer us opportunity to practice resistance and suffering. Choice. Choose not to suffer. Choose to accept. Acceptance doesn't mean that you don't change things. It just means that whatever you do it from openness. Brilliant.
The next question is from a YouTube viewer. How do you deal with boredom as to not feel angsty?
How do you deal with boredom as to what?
As to not feel antsy?
Antsy, antsy pantsy, huh? I don't experience boredom. You only experience boredom if you're living in your head. You have a look at what boredom is. It's the thought that nothing's changing, that we're doing the same thing over and over again. Well, that's actually not possible. Every moment is new. Every moment is fresh. If you are present to reality, you can't get bored. You only get bored if you're present to your mind, which likes to run endless loops of dream over and over again. And that's boring. Get real. Be in reality. Present moment awareness of what is. I imagine you do get antsy when you get bored because you're living in your head. Why wouldn't you be? You're frustrating yourself. Get out of your head. Put your awareness on what is real. And if you're not thinking, everything is real. In a way, everything is real. Thoughts are just dream. And the ultimate reality is this that is aware of everything, pure consciousness. And it is always, always here.
The next question has been written by Olivia. In my close relationships, I sometimes get feedback that I do not agree with. I do not know how to react and often object, which it creates tension within the relationship. Can you advise on a better approach?
Yeah, I get feedback all the time, people not agreeing with me. So what? That's their opinion, not mine. Why should I be upset by what they're thinking, which is none of my business in the first place? Why should I take it personal, what they're thinking? They're just running true to their default patterning that was programmed into them by their parents, their church, their government, their peers, their schooling. It may or may not be correct. So what? That's their opinion. And opinions are just opinions, they're not reality. Why would I be upset? When someone gives you a gift, an opinion, do you have to accept it? No. Why? You don't have to accept it. It's like when someone tries to deliver anger to you. Do you have to accept it? Do you have to take the gift? No, of course you don't. That's their business, not yours. That's they're producing that. That's their game. Don't take anything personally. Why would you want to do that? The world is full of nuts. All these opinions about everything. You'll never be able to please everyone because people have different ideas of how things should be. But as long as we're trying to get acceptance from everyone, boy, are we crippling ourselves. It's okay for people to not accept us. It's absolutely okay. Let go of acceptance and be free.
Next, Satya would like to ask a question.
Hello, Satya.
Hello, Vishrant. Vishrant, rather than marketplace, if you go into cave or ashram for further spiritual practice, is it helpful and can we find a supportive environment over there? So, can you just bring light on this, please?
Well, there's nothing wrong with going into monasteries and ashrams and doing things in them. It's wonderful. I've spent a lot of time in mystery schools around the world. Osho's mystery school in Pune and his mystery schools in America and mystery schools in Italy and in the UK. It's great. And for a little bit of time, you've got time to have a look at yourself. And you've got people around you that are looking at themselves, and you've probably got teachers who are showing you what they can see in you. This is wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. I'm not against that at all. In fact, I'm not against anything when I look at it. If you want to stay in a mystery school for your whole life, you can. It's just that most of the people I talk to are not monks or nuns. They don't want to live in a mystery school. They don't want to really live uh, in a monastery, in an ashram. they want to be in the marketplace where they have jobs, where they have families. And so I looked at all the different teachings around the place that supported enlightenment and realized that quite a few of the teachings that involve monasteries, ashrams, and monks and nuns weren't suitable for people in the marketplace because it doesn't actually help them. They're not going to sit in a cave and self-inquire all day. They're not going to sit in a monastery and self-inquire all day. They have to actually create a mind that will support enlightenment. And the only way I know how to do that is to practice acceptance of life. And if you're in the marketplace, if you have a family, if you have a job, you've got so much opportunity to practice acceptance of life if you want to. Or you've got so much opportunity to practice resistance and suffering if you want to. Just be aware that you're the one that's creating your reality because you are totally responsible for your thinking and your actions. So, Satcha, you want to go and play in monasteries or ashrams? Go ahead.
Thank you, Vishrant.
Good to talk to you, Satcha.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Vishrant.
The next question is from Kalimba.
Good morning, Vishrant.
Hello, Kalimba.
When you were talking to Olivia just now, it triggered a memory for me. A few years ago, I heard about a community in Rosebank run by a lady called Diane Horton. And Diane was connected with Paul Lowe because he's retired around that area. And one of the things she said to me, which resonated, so if you'd like to comment on it, if somebody says something to you or makes a judgment or something, she said, the more you resist it, the more likely there is to be some truth in it. If it's absolute BS, it just goes straight over your head. But if you go, oh, I don't like that, then there's probably something in it. Would you like to comment on that?
The truth is, people resist whether they agree or they don't agree, mate. So I don't buy it. No, sorry. People are programmed to resist. All of us were programmed to resist, particularly us as Australians. We were programmed to resist life. Where in our programming, where in our patterning, where in our parents' teaching were we ever programmed to accept life? We're just great big resistors. And that's why this whole teaching is foreign to us as Westerners, because it comes from India. To accept life as it is, to not fight, to offer non-resistance, which is the way of the heart. And so I don't think Diane's right. I think people run true to their patterning. It may be true that people resist because there's some truth in what's being said, but they may be just resisting because it's their pattern to resist, which is more than likely.
Oh, fair enough.
Well, Kalimba, everyone runs through their patterning. Were you ever trained by your parents to accept life as it is?
Nope.
Nope, me neither.
Well, I didn't have much interaction with my parents anyway because, when my dad was in the war and he was off back in the Navy when I was about 2 weeks old, and then they moved to India, and then it's a long story, but I won't go into it. But you said earlier how you love relating to people, and it's just sort of, I don't know whether it was always like that, but it really resonates with me too. Like I go for a walk in the mornings about 7:30 to 8:30 around the school paddocks, and whenever I pass somebody, I always say something. And it's lovely when people brighten up, because I think a lot of people, they walk past each other like they don't exist. And the same in supermarkets. I nearly always chat to somebody in supermarkets, and you can just see their faces light up. And I know you do that too.
I love saying hello to people, mate. My favourite species, human beings. All these amazing, intelligent spacesuits wandering around to play with.
Well, they're my second favorite. Puppies are probably my favorite.
Oh, look, I like dogs too. I've got two puppies. Well, they're two dogs. They're not puppies anymore. One's just turned 1 year and 2 weeks, which makes him not a puppy anymore.
Oh, that's only about 7 or 8 in dog years, so it's a little kitty.
He's very
Yeah.
disobedient, very, very disobedient.
Is that right? So he's triggering you with his disobedience?
No, he just is a stubborn dog. He's a little male, and he's a Scottish Terrier. Uh, they call them Cairns Terriers, and it's
Oh,
just
right,
the personality of the breed. They're just very stubborn little dogs.
right. Yeah. Sounds a bit like Lasso Apsos. I
Uh,
walk a friend's dog and it can be a little aggro. And I looked it up on the net. And what it said was the reason Lasso Apsos can be a bit grumpy or aggressive is that when they look in a mirror, they don't see a small, white, fluffy dog. They see a lion.
well, fair enough.
Thanks for that, Vish.
The next question is from Sean on Facebook. Is having a clear mind the best way to approach negativity in others?
Yeah, clarity. Clarity is essential for higher consciousness. It's essential for success in any endeavor we do. And so when we don't put clarity as an important ingredient in our life, we're missing the boat when it comes to higher consciousness. Clarity is important. The word for clarity in Sanskrit is nirmala, and it is one of the aspects of the enlightened ones, nirmala, to have clarity, to be sattvic. But we can develop clarity earlier in life, and it will serve us so well because we see everything coming, we see everything going, we see the big picture. When we don't have clarity, we get caught in the small picture, we get caught in the dramas. Clarity in life is absolutely brilliant.
The next question has been written by a viewer. Is awareness on sights and sounds any closer to awareness on beingness compared to awareness on thought or imagination?
Okay, so when we put our awareness on thought and imagination, we tend to live as the thought and imagination. In other words, we tend to live as dream. Now, whatever that dream is about, that's what we live as. So if it's an angry dream, we live as anger. If it's a fearful dream, we live as fear. If we have our awareness on sounds and sights, we tend to just be out here. We're not really living as anything then. We're not caught in some kind of imaginary state. When awareness is on awareness, we're actually living as beingness because we live pretty much as what our awareness is on. So if awareness is aware of itself, we're living as beingness. But in that situation, there's no I, there's no personal beingness. Coming back to having awareness on objects or sounds, there's a certain identification there if the person is still ego based. Having awareness on imagination, well, you live as that. And we were all programmed to be problem solvers. We went to school to learn how to look for problems and solve them. So people who live in their heads tend to live as problem solvers. That's what they live as. And if they get upset, they live as the anger that's involved with that problem. It's best to have our awareness, if we're ego based, if we're not awake yet, on reality, on the sounds and the sights and the beauty of what's out here. Asking the question, what's aware of what's out here? Who am I really? Because we are not the mind and we are not the body. We are not this spacesuit. We are pure consciousness and we are here now. And we're always here now. Find that as self and be free of this.
The following question has been written by Jacob on YouTube. What happens to beingness after death has occurred?
Ask me when I die. Which brings me to another very interesting subject, and that is that my experience tells me that I've been here many, many times before. As a matter of fact, hundreds of times before. And so when we talk about what happens to what happens to ego-based reality, or what happens to awareness, I think awareness or consciousness is always here. That's my experience. The ego keeps getting reborn over and over and over again. It keeps coming back to more and more lives, basically, of dissatisfaction, until it learns to turn awareness back to itself, until it learns to accept life as it is, until awakening occurs. Then the ego drops because it's seen for what it is, fraudulent, not real. You can't actually be a somebody without imagination. There's nobody here. And there never, ever has been. Just a figment of imagination that thinks it's a somebody, or thinks it was a somebody. You try finding the I anywhere. Just have a look for it someday. And then when you're really sick of looking for the I, because you won't find it, check out what's aware of the looking. Then you're starting to look at your true self.
The following question has been written by Dr. Reese on YouTube. Dear Vish, do you have any tips on how to develop the witness that watches the thoughts as they're happening?
Hey, Dr. Reese, nice to talk to you. From my perspective, I just started watching the mind. I just started seeing that the mind itself had its own life and that it had thoughts, and I was lost in those thoughts. But what I could do was just start to watch the thoughts rather than being involved with them. And so the mind has its story running. And instead of being involved in the story, I started just witnessing this story. And after a while, I started witnessing everything rather than being involved in everything. Most human beings, adults, are lost in the story. They think it's real. They think their projections are real. They think their memories are real. They think their understandings and ideas are real because they're lost in them. Once we develop that witness that just witnesses the mind, we have detachment from it. We see that it's just a crazy machine that doesn't stop, just goes on and on and on. But because we're not involved in it, it loses its power. Witnessing is the best way to get to see that we are not the mind, that we are not the body. It also enables enlightenment. But as far as tips are concerned, you might be thinking right now. Witness the thinking. Watch the thinking. And you'll see that there's a separateness from it. There's a witness that just witnesses. Just keep witnessing. Don't get involved in the story. Just keep witnessing. Look, it's a bit like looking at someone else's mind. You can see that they're babbling on about whatever, and their life isn't working or whatever, and you're just witnessing it. There's no judgment involved. There's no thoughts involved as to what they're saying. You're just witnessing it. Do exactly the same with your own mind, and you'll see how nuts it is.
The following question is from Kelly on YouTube. You don't see your physical body anymore. Do you only see vastness?
The body's here, but it has nothing to do with what I am. Some people think, well, they ask the question, who am I? We are not a who. We are pure consciousness, pure awareness, and the vastness of everythingness. And this is just a vehicle that's conscious can witness the world through. And so as far as there being a somebody that thinks there is somebody here, that one disappeared 21 years ago. There's nobody here. And if you came and sit in the room with me, you'd feel the profound silence and stillness that's actually here, because there's nobody here. There's just awareness, aware of itself. And it's beautiful. But there's nobody here to even care that it's beautiful. It's such a joke that we think we're a somebody, because we're not a somebody. You take away your imagination, which means you take away your memory and your future projections and your analyzing, and who are you really? What are you really? Because you're not that. So much freedom in knowing self as truth. No freedom in knowing self as a mind and a body, because the mind is a prison, the bars of which are made of fear. And we are not that. There's something aware of that, though. What's this that's aware? Who are you really?
The following question is from a viewer. Is identification thinking we're something we're not, as in thinking we're not beingness?
I don't think I'm beingness. I am beingness. All thinking is dream. Thinking you're beingness is just another identification. It's just you being identified with some imaginary beingness that you are. No, when awareness becomes aware of itself, wow, consciousness aware of itself, that's impossible to describe. People try to describe it, but it's impossible to describe. How about being everything at once and nothing at once? How about being everything as love? But still, it's inadequate. Human beings, the body and the mind, have the potential to turn, because of the intelligence of the mind, to turn awareness back to itself, to wake up. It's not the ego that wakes up. It's not the mind that wakes up. It's that that's aware of the mind that wakes up. And enlightenment is when that that's aware of the mind wakes up to itself and stays aware of itself. Some people make the mistake of having a satori where they get a glimpse of self, where awareness becomes aware of itself for a short period, and they think they've woken up. No, you had a glimpse. Enlightenment is 24/7 awareness, aware of itself. Brilliant.
Next, Varsha would like to ask a question.
Hello, Varsha.
Hi, Vishrant. Sometimes when I practice self-inquiry, I tend to direct the question to my heart center. And I start feeling some kind of pain there, or I get headache or anxiety. So I want to ask you that, is there any problem or mistake in the way I'm doing it? Or this is what is expected?
Okay. So the question is, what's aware? And so a thought arises in your mind, and then the question, what's aware of that thought? You're not directing awareness anywhere really. You're simply asking, what's aware? And in that question, there is the potential of that is aware of the thought becoming aware of itself. And that is Tori, if it's a glimpse. When the mind starts trying to direct awareness to the heart, we're actually still operating externally. And this adventure of self-inquiry is an internal adventure. It's turning awareness that's always here back to itself, not onto the heart, not onto anything else, just back to itself. And so the question is, from my perspective, what's aware? Some people ask the question, who am I? Some people ask, who's aware? I found what's aware. And after a while of asking that question to every thought that arose, it wasn't even needed to ask the question. It was just aware, and awareness would turn back to itself. There would be awareness back out here on the world, and there'd be a recognition that awareness had lost itself, and the word aware would come and it would flick back onto itself. And after about a year of that, it stayed on itself.
Okay. Okay.
So you're directing awareness to something external still, your heart. We're looking to turn inwards to what's aware, not something external.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense, and it's very helpful. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Lovely to say hello, Vasha.
Hi. Thank.
The following question has been written by Oleg on YouTube. Vishrant, thank you very much for the light that you are sharing. Please speak about the way of the heart in everyday life.
Ah, good question. Well, a good subject. You see, if you're going to be here, and if you're alive, you're here, what are you going to do here? What are you going to fill your days with? And from my understanding, the only thing to do here is to love everyone and to take care of everyone. This is the way of the heart. Now, this occurred to me as a result of the loss of enlightenment, because in 1987, I had a major awakening where I found myself as the universe, found myself as every particle in the universe being love. But then after a period of time, coming back to ego-based reality. Then for the next 4 years, doing everything possible to find myself as the universe again. But I didn't have a teacher at that stage. Osho died 3 years later, unfortunately. I had gone to Pune and I was with him in 89, but he'd gone in 1990. And I gave up on enlightenment because I didn't think it was possible without my master. So I decided, well, what am I going to do here? What if I have to live here? What am I going to do here? And I chose to serve heart. I decided to give my life to heart. And I wasn't sure how that actually looked. And so I took my shoes off. I gave my companies to my staff. And I walked around Australia for 4 years in search of my own heart. Because before that, I'd been a businessman. And as a businessman, I was out of touch with my heart. I felt that I was broke, not because of finances, but because I was out of touch with my own heart. And during that journey around Australia, I got to understand that openness supports heart. The perception of heart is supported by openness, and that all forms of closure, defendedness, and resistance to life stops us from experiencing or knowing or perceiving the beauty of love. And so I decided to serve heart. Once I started to find heart, I then worked out that I wanted to serve human beings, because the way of the heart makes the mind feel like it wants to help everybody, makes the mind feel like it wants to take care of everybody and everything. And so I went back to school and trained as a naturopath and trained as a psychotherapist, so I could have some skill level to actually help people with. And then I lived the way of the heart until 1999, when awakening occurred. And I've lived the way of the heart ever since, but very differently, because the one that was living the way of the heart, the ego, dropped. It dropped in surrender. It dropped in surrender to truth. But the way of the heart is still here, and the way of the heart is being taught, because this is the beauty way, and this was the way that Osho Rajneesh was teaching. So it's here. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the only way worth living. But that's going to be completely up to you. How do you want to live the rest of your life?
The following question has been written by Craig on Facebook. Dear Vishrant, I accept this reality of the marketplace. I see the play of those busy and deep in their belief of their reality. I am finding my life is falling apart around me, and I simply do not mind. It seems the more I let go, the more peaceful I feel. When I get to a place where even the marketplace is seen as futile and just adds to more story of life, do I let that go as well?
That's the point I got to. I got to see that living a life as an ego, just serving myself, was just not worth living. And that if I was going to be here, there was another way to live. And so, yeah, I let go of everything and chose to serve heart, which meant me having to learn to put myself aside for the benefit of others and the benefit of the planet, the benefit of animals, the beauty way, which is also the path of least resistance. So I had to surrender everything inside of myself that created resistance. All the defense systems, all the belief systems that had expectations on them that created resistance. I let go of everything. And it's going to be up to you. What are you going, once you've let go of everything, what are you going to do here? You see, that's what you're left with. What are you going to do here? And from my perspective, well, serving heart, beautiful, beautiful way to live. And I think that Buddhism is the way of the heart. Buddhism isn't a set of belief systems. It's a way of living in the world towards higher consciousness. And the best way to live towards higher consciousness is the way of the heart.
The following question has been written by Enrique on YouTube. Osho told me in a dream, the seed sowed by itself. It wasn't necessary to sow the seed. Vishrant, could you please tell me something I could never forget that could help me in my way? Love from Peru.
The seed has been sown, but the seed needs to be watered. It needs sunlight. It needs to be nourished. And that's the spiritual life. That's the life where you consciously choose to serve truth and heart instead of you. Because the seed that has been sown, wow, that eventually leads to enlightenment. Awareness, aware of itself continually. But it needs to be nurtured in the early days. So many people don't take care of the seed that's been nurtured. They come into the presence of an awakened one, or they have a dream from an awakened one like you have, where the seed is actually sown, where it's actually germinated. Do they take care of the seed? No. You take care of the seed by serving truth, by serving love, instead of serving yourself. Up to you. What do you serve?
The following question is from Terry on Facebook. I live with a very messy person. If I were aware, would I be okay with a very messy house?
Say that again. I missed part of the question, mate.
I live with a very messy person.
Mm-hmm.
If I were aware, would I be okay with a very messy house?
Okay. I've had this experience, and I found that what worked was for me to clean the house. And so I have lived with a very messy person, and I just cleaned up after them. And that way the house wasn't messy. That worked. But if you're into fairness, you've got a problem. Oh, it's not fair because they're so messy. Oh, well, you go into resistance and you hurt yourself. The solution's simple. Clean the house yourself.
The next question. Is serving heart and going into service required to wake up in the marketplace?
I do believe so. If you're a sadhu or a monk or a nun and you're in a monastery or ashram or in a cave and you're doing self-inquiry and you're meditating, you're doing all the things that'll take you towards enlightenment, I think it's possible for you to wake up. But if you're in the marketplace, I think you need the heart as well. I think you need more than just discipline. I think you need the way of the heart, which allows you to remove all the obstacles that are in the way of the heart, in the way of the perception of the heart, which creates a mind that will serve enlightenment. I think unless that is done, waking up in the marketplace just with discipline is probably an impossibility. I think we have to love the beloved. So we find the beloved, which is truth, and we give it everything. Sometimes the beloved is the heart. We find the beloved as the heart, we give it everything. Whatever you serve is going to get nourished. What do you serve? You want to wake up, serve truth. You want a beautiful life, serve heart. Up to you. If you want a miserable life, yeah, serve yourself. That works. Selfishness. Selfishness is the greatest and only sin on the planet. Imagine this planet we live on without selfishness. What would it be like? Wouldn't it be wonderful? We can't change the planet, but we can change ourselves. We can choose to serve hard. We can choose to become a giver instead of a taker. We can choose to be kind instead of mean. We can choose to be generous. We can choose. That's the one thing we can do. What are you going to choose?
Is Zorba the Buddha something that is realistic in achieving for most people?
Absolutely. That's why Osho put out the idea. He had this plan that he could create a lot of Zorba the Buddhas. A lot of the sannyasins became the Zorbas. They really took the totality of life and celebrated life, but they didn't spend enough time on the Buddha bit. And the Buddha bit, well, that's the harder bit. It's not so hard to celebrate life. It's not so hard to be total in life, to be the Zorba. To be the Buddha is the hard bit, because you have to remove all the obstacles that are in the way of enlightenment. And they are the same obstacles that are in the way of the heart. And that takes a little effort. And so there needs to be a willingness to put in the effort to wake up, get a mind that will support enlightenment. So you can live as Zorba the Buddha, not really as an identity, but just as a way of life. In the world, but not of the world. Celebrating life, squeezing the juice out of life. The Buddha's always here. It's just not recognized. People get caught in dreaming, they get caught in drama, They're caught in resisting life. It all takes you to lower consciousness. Find a way to accept life as it is. Then the mind can rest. Then awareness can stay on itself. It's up to you. You create your reality by the way you think.
The next question has been written by Gopal Krishna on YouTube. When I observe awareness, breath pattern changes. It almost stops. Is that normal?
Can be. Breathing changes, mind patterns change. If they put an cephalograph on your head when you're in that space, they won't be reading a great deal. Everything changes. Everything slows down. Everything. And this is why if you're looking for beingness, it's good to be still. It's good to be silent, because it is in the silence and the stillness that we find truth as ourself. And so everything slows down. You come and sit with a master, someone who's away. You stay long enough, everything slows down, because you're falling in tune with the master. Everything slows down. Unfortunately, this fast pace that we live in the world keeps people away from higher consciousness, keeps people away from enlightenment, keeps people away from the heart. We really want to find the beauty. We have to learn to slow down, to be still, to be silent, to look where we need to look rather than looking at all the wrong things. It's in the silence and stillness that we find truth, because these are the symptoms of truth. The noise appears in the truth. Let's look for the background that the noise appears in. Let's look for that that does not move, that is absolutely silent. Let's look for the beloved one. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see brave hearts here today.